welcome to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Rob Bentley, along with Sandy Golston as Ferris State comes off a huge win on a bye week, but 4-0 on the season and just a tremendous start to the season, followed up by a great homecoming this past weekend.
Yeah, just a really good start to the season for the Bulldogs and, facing some tough competition right off the bat when you think of Pittsburgh State coming in here for a week 0 game. And then, a couple of weeks ago, tough game against Tiffin, non-conference as well, but the Bulldogs have made it through the non-conference portion of their schedule 4-0, as you mentioned, and feeling like they're trending in the right direction. They're playing some good football. We had a good crowd for homecoming and lots for people to cheer about. Undefeated weekend for Ferris State athletics and football, obviously, big part of that.
Of course, we'll talk more about that win over Rio Grande out of the state of Ohio coming up here shortly on the show. But Ferris State on a bye week, a chance for the Bulldogs to rest up, hopefully stay away from any major injuries. They've been on the practice field a couple days this week and then right back to business starting on Sunday as they get ready for Roosevelt, the first conference game next week.
Yeah, they'll go back into game week mode, and this is a good time for a bye week. I don't know what a perfect time for a bye week is, but I think it's a good one for the guys to rest up a little bit, to nurse some of those bumps and bruises that are just to just come with the territory as far as college football. And so to get that treatment, to get themselves in the right frame of mind, it's a good time for it because, from here on out, it's GLIAC play and you're playing for a GLIAC championship and you hopefully more.
Of course, Ferris State, a 76-0 winner. The Bulldogs got off to a great start and the homecoming win before a big crowd this past Saturday. Tariq Brett, a 92-yard kickoff return to open the game, and the Bulldogs were really able to set the tone early.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, how dangerous Tariq Brett can be. And then, once that ball hit Reek's hands and you're just thinking about, I think you mentioned the electrifying Tariq Brett, and he just was off to the races. He just hit the hole hard and just was going and going. And once that sprinter speed gets going, I mean, there's really not much you can do, but it really set a great tone for what this team wanted to do. It got them off to the start that we talked about, and that paved the way for the defense to do what it needed to do, maintaining a shutout throughout the game. And then the offense really clicked, especially that first unit really, really clicked. And then even when the Bulldogs started to substitute in, the offense continued to play well. Defense played well. Special teams played well. It was really a complete victory for Ferris State. Of
course, the Bulldogs were a heavy favorite going into that game. One place out there had them as a 97-point favorite, which is hard to really even fathom. But obviously, Ferris State was the heavy favorite going in, but you still have to focus in, lock in, and be ready to play. And the Bulldogs were able to do that last week.
Yeah, I think one thing you like is that the Bulldogs were not sloppy. They did not take it for granted. They did not come in, with their B or C grade game. They came in playing really sharp, and they were executing right off the bat. And so it was pretty clear that they had prepared for this game as they would prepare for any game that they would play this year, whether it's Rio Grande or whether it's Pittsburgh State or it's Grand Valley or Saginaw Valley or whoever. The Bulldogs came in with a good focused mindset, and it really showed right from the beginning.
Of course, the Bulldogs were able to do it in all three phases. We mentioned the special teams touchdown. They had another special teams touchdown on a 75-yard return off the block kick from Jeremiah Housey. It was blocked by Eric Jackson. The Bulldogs had a couple defensive scores. Justin Payout with the scoop and score for Ferris State, and Maurice Adams, true freshman, got the interception return on the pick six. So some great highlights along with what the offense was able to do in that game.
Yeah, it's some spectacular individual highlights, and it was actually quite a highlight package put together that's on the Ferris State Athletics YouTube channel that people can check out if you want. And just really great to see so many different guys compete. And then one of the things with the way that we were able to build that lead, that opened it up for, a true freshman to get an opportunity to score a huge touchdown. And again, you could just see the sideline really just erupted when that touchdown occurred, a defensive touchdown. And then, of course, you get the turnover belt and everybody's feeling really good. But it was really a spectacular win, and it was really great. One of the things that maybe went unnoticed was that it was great to see so many of the young guys get into the game and get a chance to play and start building the experience that's going to help them be one of those key players 2, 3, 4 years to come.
I thought really it was a great game for the Bulldogs to build some depth as well, not just with the young guys, but you had a guy like Chase Carter came in, really took a lot of snaps at the quarterback position. LaShawn Mumpfield, two guys that hopefully will really benefit from that additional time on the playing field in a big game.
Yeah, and I had a chance to chat with Chase after the game. He was one of the players that was in the post-game press conference, and it's really great to see him come back. He battled through a significant injury last year, and you can see him playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more poise this year, and again, being healthy. healthy certainly helps that. And it was really great to see him get in there and get some opportunities to get to the house. He was able to do that also against Lake Erie on the road in an earlier game. And so that was really good to see. And then you mentioned LeSean Mumfield, incredibly talented player, and it was really good to see him get some extended playing time. And boy, he just is really a dynamic player that's capable of making some big plays. So just a really deep quarterback room, and and it's really great to see that confidence that Coach Anise has, that he can go to really almost any of his quarterbacks and he can feel really confident with what they can do.
Of course, the Bulldogs 4-0 after that big win. That rounds out the non-conference portion of the schedule. We'll talk more a little bit later on about GLIAC play. Ferris State opening at Roosevelt 1 week from Saturday out in Arlington Heights, Illinois. That'll be our first trip to Roosevelt. Of course, they were a first-year GLIAC member last year, made the trip to Big Rapids, and certainly going to be a little bit of a test to start conference play for the Bulldogs and going on the road, but they'll have a bye week here to really prepare, lock in for that first conference game.
Yeah, coming off a bye week, you certainly want to be sharp and you want to come in and really be ready to go right from the start. And it is a new situation, of course, going to Roosevelt. It's going to be the first time for Ferris State, with Roosevelt still a relatively new member to the conference, but we're certainly glad to have them. A football playing member of the conference is certainly a great addition for Ferris State and the rest of the members of the GLIAC. And so, it's going to be a little bit of a new situation. We played them last year, of course, at home in Big Rapids. And so there is some film and there is some history. And the coaches will get a chance to review some of that film and, of course, of our game with them last year and some of what they've done so far this year as they get ready to head into that game after the bye.
You mentioned a great homecoming weekend. The Bulldogs had a huge crowd, Top Taggart Field, and always nice to see so many alums come back. Saw the tents out there in the tailgate lots on Saturday morning, and so many different people that come back each and every year for homecoming.
Yeah, homecoming is special, and I know probably every college and university in the country is saying that, but it's really special at Ferris State. It kicks off in the morning really probably with the homecoming parade from downtown Big Rapids all the way to campus. And, of course, we have the Grand Marshals, that tradition that continues. Dr. Bob and Kim Buckingham were this year's Grand Marshals. And, of course, you crown the homecoming royalty. And so those are big traditions. But, one of the biggest things that is ongoing is that tailgate, with all the alumni tents and the alumni reunions, and just to walk through that lot and see so many people. I know for me as a Ferris alum that's been around here for 3 decades, that was kind of hard to say, but that's it's really special to see so many alums come back. We saw so many football alums, a few football alums out in the parking lot, and it was really good to see them. So it's just really great. It's a great tradition, and they were treated to a really great win.
Of course, for many of those fans, not only a chance to watch the number one team in the country in action, they had a chance to see the marching band for a lot of them for the first time here this season. And since the return of the marching band, the cheer team, and obviously the coronation ceremonies that take place at halftime, all part of the homecoming events.
It is. We just so much of what you just mentioned there. I think see having a band back. I think some of our alumni who go back 30 or more years, they maybe remember the marching band that was here. And so I think for them to see this marching band come back is just a great addition to not only football, but even beyond, because that's going to be opportunities even beyond football for our marching band to be able to perform. They're going to be able to have events and opportunities where they're going to bring in high school bands. They're going to have so much outreach opportunity, and band parents love to watch band members perform, and that's really great. And then you mentioned cheer and stunt and what they've been able to do so far. Certainly the cheer aspect of cheer and stunt has really been an incredible addition to the atmosphere at Top Taggart Field. And so those two additions alone have really enhanced our environment.
Of course, part of a busy homecoming weekend. And you mentioned the other athletic teams. We had 5 events going on over the course of the weekend, and all 5 games were won by Ferris State. Bulldog volleyball got a couple big wins, and Ferris State soccer with 2 big wins as well by 1-0 scores to start conference action.
Yeah, it was huge. I think, when you look at Bulldog volleyball, that was tremendous. I mean, to play Michigan Tech, and then Northern Michigan had a tough, 4-set win over Michigan Tech, and then you come back, you win 3-0 over Northern Michigan Friday and then Saturday, respectively. That was really impressive for Coach Brandel Wilhelm's team to perform like that against 2 really good, traditionally good opponents. That was great. And then soccer, you mentioned, having 3 ties to their credit and 1 loss. And then for them to get back-to-back 1-0 wins, I think was really huge, a big confidence builder. And we had a chance, and our fans can see it on the Ferris State Athletics YouTube channel. We talked to Catherine Welch, and we talked to Bella Valoni after the second victory of the weekend, and they really spoke to what an uplift that was for the team to be able to get those 2 wins and to be able to be a part of a 5-0 homecoming weekend. I think just meant a lot to them and to all of Ferris State athletics and the university as a whole.
Of course, here on today's show, we're looking forward to hearing from one of the Ferris State football players. Senior center Jarvis Windom will be on the show. We'll talk with Cedric Frierson, the coordinator of revenue generation and advancement here at Ferris State. That's, of course, involved on game days, former college football player at Ashland University. So looking forward to talking more about what's going on in Bulldog athletics with him. And then, of course, we'll run down the D2Football.com scoreboard. We'll check the GLIAC matchups and a lot of conference action here as the teams get ready for conference play starting here the next week.
Yeah, I mean, definitely excited to hear from Big Jarv and for him to talk about, the tradition that we have on the offensive line, the tradition of greatness that we have on the offensive line. And he's kind of a bridge to some of the great offensive linemen we had in the past, early in his career when he started at Ferris State to where they are now. So that's going to be exciting. And to hear from Cedric, he's aware there's a lot of different hats for Ferris State, in addition to, revenue generation and working with our booster clubs. He also does a lot of work behind the scenes to help facilitate successful events that we have on campus. So it's going to be interesting to hear from both of those guys.
Of course, we'll have more on the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Big thanks as well to Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City. We'll be back with more after this break here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. And we're joined now by Ferris State University senior center Jarvis Windom. Jarvis, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Just maybe talk about what the season's been like for you so far. Obviously, one of the veteran leaders on the offensive line, and just what it's like being back here as a Bulldog.
So this season has been pretty fun. The guys are hungry. No matter who we play, the opponent, all the guys are being together, whether that's on the field or outside of the field. So we're keeping a straight bond with each other, and we're just hungry for anyone in front of us.
For you, what was that work like in the offseason, just getting prepared to come back here as a senior this year and a leader on the offensive line?
So Coach Haynes and his staff has been great this offseason. They have helped me even get bigger and more muscle. A lot of guys got a lot of muscle. So they prepared us very well for this for the season, this offseason, and they got a lot of guys ready, and it's showing so far this season.
For you, last year, how much did that experience playing in every game and obviously being a starter on the offensive line, how much did that help you as you came back and got ready for this fall?
Well, it helped a lot. I feel like last year was just a start, not just for me, but as an O-line together. This year, we're ramping it up even more. We're being able to identify linebackers more, take certain movements, identify even safeties and different DBs and coverages that they have going for us. So it's been pretty good, and I feel like just going to keep getting better from here.
What's that chemistry like on the offensive line? And obviously you had to replace a couple guys from last year, but great nucleus of guys coming back and some guys that have really stepped into some of those roles.
Yeah, so like I said, last year felt like it was just a start. We got Dane Arnett and Ben Prestula that took over for Bryce George and Lawrence Hattar. They have been amazing. We've been communicating way more on the offensive line. We know where our assignment is, and as long as we communicate, no one can stop us.
And just talk about the impact of your coaches. You guys had a coaching change on the offensive line,
Yeah.
but what's that been like adjusting to a new coaching staff for your unit? What have those guys been like?
I feel like Coach Burton has came in and did a tremendous job. He's a real technician. He's getting all of our technique right, even though we're not going to get it right day one, but he lets us know every day that we're going to keep getting better and better at it as long as we do the things we need to get better. So I feel like he's came in and made us even better than we were last year. So
talk about the film study, because I know Coach Burton, that's a big thing for him.
Yeah. So we watch film in the morning and right after practice. So we normally didn't watch film after practice because of guys got classes and stuff, but we find some way to get everyone together when they don't have classes so we can watch film. He goes over film with everyone individually and as a group. So it's been just great getting us better.
And talk about, because even before we lost two key guys to Power 4 conferences, what did you guys do as a group to help develop those younger guys? Because those guys have been able to come step in and really just kind of hit the ground running.
I feel like we just showed the way and showed them the standard. You know, the standard is the standard. Since they've been here, they've seen it. So I feel like they fit in real perfect, and they're even showing the younger guys that the standard is the standard. So they're doing a pretty good job as well.
Mm-hmm. And then talk about, you know, because you guys are obviously one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the country, but you get to go against one of the best defensive lines, if not the best defensive line in the country. Yeah. What's that like?
It's amazing. They're getting us better every day. We get them better. Even though we have a bye week this week, we've been going against the ones a little bit. You know, they're giving us some things we haven't seen. We're giving them some things they haven't seen. So it's just making us better for the future and the future games that we have.
And what's it like? Because you guys are pushing each other, and you know, everybody talks about it, it's a cliche, but football games are won in the trenches. Yeah. And then you guys really take a lot of pride in that. You guys as the nasty boys, we'll get to that in a little bit, going against the defensive line. I mean, both of you guys have a lot of pride, both units.
Yeah, so we both pride ourselves on we are the reason that we win games. I'll say, like, towards the end of the games, other teams start to wear down, and that's where we are the strongest that we are in the fourth quarter, I feel like. So teams, they get beat down a little bit the first 3 quarters, and then fourth quarter we get even more energy and more strength and speed, so we are able to hit them off the rip in the fourth quarter, so they can't stop us.
And you mentioned Coach Haynes a little bit earlier, but Colton, Dom, Riley, Ed, talk about what they do for you guys.
I feel like it's been amazing. I've never had 4 strength coaches before, but every time I look to my left or right, someone right there watching. So I feel like that's a good thing. They got their eyes on everyone. Everyone is getting looked at, not just specific people. So I feel like everyone is getting better and not just a couple people.
So talk about the Nasty Boys. Yeah. I mean, how did that come about? And you guys have really leaned into it.
Yeah, so I feel like Tim Bob, they are the founders of Nasty Boys. But I just feel like ever since I've been here at Ferris State, it's always been Nasty Boys. Mm-hmm. Back when Shreve played for the O-line, Zane O.B., you got Boomstra, Squally, all those guys, they showed the way for Nasty Boys. We just watched after them and, you know, sharpened up our technique a little bit better than what they did. But other than that, they paved the way for the Nasty Boys, and we just came up with the name.
And then one last question before I kick it back to Rob. Talk about Tim Bob. I mean, that's becoming like a brand right now. I mean, with their personalities, I mean, they're like famous commercial stars now. But talk about those 2 guys and their personalities.
So those 2 guys, they're probably the 2 funniest dudes I've been around, honestly. They bring the juice every day. They get everybody ready for practice. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking the other day, walking in the locker room, I see those guys getting ready for practice. I'm like, man, this their last year. You know, I might not even be having the most energy, but just looking at those guys getting ready for practice, they give me energy and want me to go out there and be my best every day, just like they're being their best.
For you, obviously, this year, you got some key playmakers back on the offensive side of the ball with some new faces, Wyatt being one of them at quarterback. Just what's it like been working with some new guys on the offensive side of the ball?
I could say personally, working with Wyatt, I've just been trying to uplift him as a young quarterback. It might not be a great play that he makes necessarily sometimes, but I'm always there to just next play. And the next play, he gets it right. And it's just like, he just never quits, and that's what everybody on this team just never quits. So I feel like everybody on offense, we got Reek, Jay Lee, Brady, they all make plays. We got Deion Smalls make plays, Tarek Bauer make plays, Cam Underwood make plays, Tay Boy makes plays. There's probably a couple other guys that I'm missing, but everybody makes plays, and they're hungry for the opportunity. So once their opportunity comes, they present it, and they do really well with their opportunity.
I've already played 3 home games here at Top Tiger. What's it been like playing in front of the fans and just having those home games with some nice crowds here early in the year?
I feel like it's been amazing. I like night games personally, so now we don't have night games anymore, but those was kind of cool. We got a marching band now. We got a nice cheer squad, so I feel like everything is just – the atmosphere and everything with Ferris State is just getting bigger and bigger, and it's great, and it just gets us rolling. It gets our energy up on game day.
Of course, this past weekend, homecoming, a big 76-0 win. Just how important was it for you guys to go out there and really make a statement here early and allow some of those other guys to get in the game?
Yeah, it was real important because the standard is always the standard no matter who we go against. It could be a team on our level or a team not on our level. It doesn't matter. We're going to play the same all the time. We're not the same, but better every time. So we always play at our fullest potential, and against those guys on Saturday, Rio Grande, our young guys stepped up. They made a lot of plays. You see Maurice did a pick 6, and it was just like, wow, I wasn't even expecting that. But like the guys, they get their shot, they take opportunity, and they make the best of it.
Maybe talk about how you guys are handling the bye week, couple days of practice here, and maybe a little extra time off here this week.
Yeah, so it's pretty good for our bodies. You know, we getting a lot of treatment. Just we're going against the ones, like I said, just for a little bit. We don't want to be lousy and all slouch for next week. So getting the good looks against the ones is pretty good. They get us better, we get them better. So we're just sharpening iron right now.
How excited are you guys to now hit the month of October and start to make a run here in the GLIAC, starting conference play?
Yeah, I'm ready for conference play. I know we have one of the best and toughest conferences in the Division II football. So I'm really excited to play all the competition that we have in front of us, and we are ready for any challenges that come in front of us.
For you, maybe talk a little bit about what you do away from football. What's your academic major? What do you hope to do in the long run?
Yep. So I'm in television and digital media production. I hope to be in the media team, a part of sports still, whether that's basketball, football, ESPN, all types of things like that. So I hope to be around sports still, even if I don't make it with sports myself. But other than that, I like to freelance, be someone that someone can call on when they need something.
Maybe talk about what you do away from sports, maybe some hobbies you have, something the fans would be interested that you do.
So on my off time, I just do a lot of homework. I lift weights a lot, and then I just play the game. I play 2K a lot, so that's what I've been doing lately, playing NBA 2K. It just came out.
Obviously, a lot of big games left here in the year, but how excited are you hopefully to make another run here at another championship this year?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. We had a great team. The standard is the standard, like I've said before. Every week we have to get better, though. If we want to reach those goals, we have to get better every week, and we have to win every week. So we can't have our mind set so forward and deep into the season. We have to be prepared for our next opponent and just keep the task in front of us.
I know you mentioned earlier some of those guys that have played here on the offensive line before you. For you, what does it mean to be able to carry on the tradition, I guess, and the excellence, especially up front on the offensive line?
It's pretty good carrying the tradition. Those guys, they were, like I said, they were nasty, and we're just cleaning up some things that those guys may not have got taught back then, but they always came off the ball and smacked someone in the mouth. So we just want to keep that going and keep that mentality going.
Well, Jarv, we appreciate all the time here today, and enjoy the bye week. Best of luck as you look ahead here to starting conference play next week.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Cindy Golston with you as we continue our coverage of Ferris State football here on the bye week. Ferris State gearing up for the start of GLIAC play. Coming up next week when the Bulldogs will make the trip to Roosevelt, and we'll talk more about that matchup. But obviously, for Ferris State, the first test in towards their defense of the conference championship.
Yeah, it's going to be the first test, the first of many tests that are going to be coming up. And one thing about GLIAC play, and no matter the opponent, that there's there's going to be a little extra something that is going to be on the field for each of these games, knowing what's on the line. A GLIAC championship, and the Bulldogs were able to return the GLIAC championship to Ferris State last season, and it's something that they'd like to keep their hands on for another year. And so to do that, they're going to have to get off to a good start in GLIAC play.
Of course, that always one of the first goals for Coach Anise. I know he's said it before. It's not winning the national championship. One of the first goals is to win a conference championship and to try to be unbeaten in the regular season. That really sets themselves up for what they hope is a playoff run.
Exactly. I mean, you can't start thinking about national championship before you think about your conference championship. That's the first priority, having a really good regular season, because that's going to put you in position to be able to hopefully play for a national championship. So first things first, and for the Bulldogs, that's really to compete for and try to win a GLIAC championship. And so they were able to experience that last year, and they want to see if they can keep that going, keep that tradition going. There's a great feeling that you saw on the field last year when the Bulldogs were able to defeat Davenport to not only win that Calder City Cup trophy for the Calder City Classic, a rivalry game, but also to be able to return that GLIAC championship to Ferris State. That was an emotional win for Ferris State.
Of course, Ferris State gearing up for the start of conference play. We had all the conference teams pretty much in action this past weekend as we run down our GLIAC scoreboard. We'll start with Saginaw Valley. They've been a team that maybe hasn't quite met the expectations they had coming into the year. They went on the road but took on a Division I opponent, fell behind in the opening half of that game, but battled back, made it a ball game, fell to New Haven 35-28 the final score.
Yeah, I think one of the positives for Coach Brady to take out of that game is that they did fight back toward the end. As you mentioned, they did fall into a hole early. We were kind of monitoring that in the other scores around the GLIAC, and they fell in the hole early, but they did fight back on the road, as you mentioned, against an opponent from a higher level. And so, we'll see, how that works toward what they're trying to accomplish for the rest of the season, but maybe there's a positive that can come out of that for the Cardinals.
Davenport, meanwhile, went on the road. They took on another conference team in Northern Michigan. It was a non-conference game, first of two matchups here on the schedule between those two teams. Went inside the Superior Dome and came away with a 35-16 win.
Yeah, it's a big win for Coach McEwen's team to go up to the Superior Dome and to be able to get that win. As Northern Michigan is a team that's obviously struggled over the last few years, but at the same time, they're going to play hard, and if you're not ready to play, then you run that risk. And so hats off to Coach Sparky McEwen and his team for not letting down and for going in there on the road and playing a good game, and it certainly sets the table for them as they're going to be a rematch, but this time with conference stakes on the line. So we'll see how that plays out, but certainly a lot of confidence for Davenport.
Of course, a couple GLIAC teams had to take on Division III teams out of the state of Wisconsin, which traditionally has been very strong at football at the Division III level. Wisconsin Oshkosh defeats Roosevelt 38-21. Oshkosh, a top 20 team in Division III football. So Roosevelt put up a showing, but not able to come away with the win on the road.
Yeah, they knew that was going to be an uphill battle. As you mentioned, Oshkosh, a top 20 team. And they played like it. It's a tough matchup, but again, Roosevelt competed, and I think that's probably a positive feeling for them coming out of that game if you can extract a positive from a loss.
Of course, another team that fell was Wayne State. They drop a 31-22 decision at Wisconsin Lacrosse. Lacrosse, a team that's been very good over the years. They were able to beat the Warriors, another road game for the GLIAC going to a Division III opponent. Yeah,
a very highly ranked Division III opponent, and Lacrosse is had crossed paths with some GLIAC teams in the past, and they get a win over Wayne State. Of course, playing at home is certainly an advantage to them, but Lacrosse, very, very good football team, and they were able to get the better of Wayne State.
Of course, Michigan Tech was a team that was at home. It was homecoming up in Houghton, Michigan. The unbeaten Huskies taking on Upper Iowa, and Upper Iowa pulls off a stunner, 21-14, the final score. Upper Iowa, of course, a member of the Great Lakes Valley Conference, able to go to Houghton and beat Michigan Tech.
Yeah, tough loss for the Huskies at home, homecoming. They had just worked their way into the national top 25 in D2football.com, and that's a tough loss for them. I think that was one that they felt really good about, especially with it being homecoming. And we've been up there around there when the celebration's going, and it's quite an atmosphere that they put on. So tough loss for Michigan Tech.
Of course, Ferris State was one of the other teams in action. The Bulldogs, a 76-0 winner over Rio Grande, NAIA school from the state of Ohio. And obviously for Ferris State, maybe not the opponent the Bulldogs would want all the time on the schedule, but they certainly wanted the challenge of being on the field. Grand Valley State had back-to-back bye weeks, both last week and this coming week. So it was just nice for Ferris State to have a game that the Bulldogs could play on homecoming.
And obviously, scheduling non-conference games is a challenge, for some of the top teams around the country. And so that's why you see a lot of the top teams around the country playing each other. We talked about Ferris State and Grand Valley both playing Pittsburgh State, welcoming, the challenge of playing against top teams because it is a challenge to schedule. But at the same time, I think we had homecoming, and I think you want to play a team, you want to have an opponent for homecoming. And so Rio Grande, we thank them for the willingness to play us and to give us an opportunity to really to be able to have homecoming. And of course, football is such a huge part of the homecoming celebration.
Of course, you wonder just how much that game meant to Ferris State. You look at the schedule for this week, and Davenport, one of those teams that was in action against Lincoln out of California, and that game has been canceled as Lincoln decided not to make the trip to face the Panthers in Caledonia.
Yeah, that's obviously very, very tough for Davenport to have to deal with that. And again, it's one of those things that it happens, and on short notice, it's certainly disappointing, and you really feel for the student athletes and the coaches that put so much work into it.
Of course, with week 0 added, we get to this weekend's schedule, and kind of hard to believe with that game being canceled. We've got just one game involving a GLIAC team here this weekend, as all the teams in the conference, it looks like, are taking this one here as a break and a chance to rest up and gear up for the start of conference action.
Yeah, there's that week for the GLIAC, and Wayne State gonna slip in there, and they're gonna have a game against Quincy from the GLVC, and so we'll see how the Warriors do. But everybody else is idle this week, and so unfortunately, Davenport did not expect to be this weekend, but that's an unfortunate circumstance that they're going to have to deal with because they come out of the bye week, for example, and they got Grand Valley. So we'll see how it plays out when everybody returns that's on a bye week returns off a bye week.
Wayne State, you mentioned, will be hosting Quincy. That'll be played in Detroit on Saturday, so the only game involving a GLIAC team now on this week's schedule. We'll quickly run down the matchups for the first weekend of conference play. We'll talk more about it next week, of course, here on the Bulldog Blitz football radio show, but the Bulldogs, of course, will open action at Roosevelt, which will take place 1 week from Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern time start out in Arlington Heights, Illinois. It'll be Wayne State playing host to Michigan Tech on Saturday, October 4th. Northern Michigan at Saginaw Valley, and then the battle, the crosstown matchup in the Grand Rapids area. Grand Valley State hosting Davenport, maybe kind of the marquee matchup in that opening weekend of conference action.
Yeah, it sure looks like it, with Grand Valley being home, and you mentioned the crosstown rivalry, and so a very short trip for Davenport to travel to Grand Valley, and it's going to be an interesting matchup as, Grand Valley certainly coming off a double bye, 2 straight bye weeks. They're going to want to get into it pretty early, and one thing we know about Davenport, Coach Sparky McEwen's team, and and his son, A.J. McEwen, who runs the defense, they're going to have their team ready. I mean, those guys are going to be ready to play. And so they're going to play well defensively. They're going to be ready to go.
Ferris State, of course, on a bye week this week, but the Bulldogs still hard at work this week. Practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. Then the Bulldogs will give the guys a couple days off, right back to action on Sunday as they come back for the team meetings, get the lifting, and then kind of back to a normal game week schedule starting on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that routine is really important for the team to really get back into a rhythm. You use this week to obviously stay sharp and to continue to work on things, but also as an opportunity to rest the body and to get the treatments that you need to get, while also, again, trying to stay as focused as possible. Then you jump back into game week.
Let's take a look at the D2Football.com scoreboard as we have a chance right here. We'll keep it going as we talk about the matchups this past weekend in the country and what's coming up this week. It was number 16 California, Pennsylvania defeating Lock Haven 42-6 in a battle. Obviously, California, Pennsylvania, a ranked top 25 team. Also, this past week in action on our top 25 scoreboard here presented by D2Football.com. It was number 3 Kutztown staying unbeaten as they defeated Gannon 46-7. A couple PSAC teams along with Slippery Rock we'll talk about soon that are right there in the top of the national rankings.
Yeah, I mean, Kutztown just continues to play really, really good football. They continue to be the class of that conference right now, and so they continue to play really, really well. And they're a team that certainly is keeping their eye not only on winning a PSAC championship, but also trying to make a run in the playoffs.
Number 17, Lenore Rhine was upset on the road at Carson Newman, 24-7. Big win for Carson Newman. Number 13, Augustana goes on the road, and they handled Bemidji State 42-14. Bemidji State's been a playoff team here in years past, but right now a little bit of a struggle here early in the year for the Beavers.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for them. No question about it. But Augustana is a team with some high expectations. They've worked their way into the top 25, and they seem to have slid into that spot that Bemidji had over the last few years.
Of course, I think last week we mentioned the name Danny Woodhead. Danny Woodhead, of course, one of the all-time greats in Division II football. I believe a Harlan Hill Trophy winner out of Chadron State in Nebraska. They also have another guy that played there in years past by the name of Don Beebe, who, of course, was a great player in the NFL. Chadron State, though, a huge win as they go on the road in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference and defeat number 23 Colorado Mines 34-28. First time they've beaten Mines, I think, since back around 2010.
That's a huge, huge win. Of course, Colorado Mines has really earned quite a reputation for themselves, a couple of national championship game appearances, and that's a big, big win for Chadron.
Also in action this past week in the Northern Sun Conference, which, of course, now a member of Super Region 3, along with the Bulldogs. It was number 14, Minnesota State, handling Jamestown 36-7. Number 11, Minnesota Duluth, off to a great start this year. They defeat Sioux Falls 34-17.
Well, Minnesota Duluth has certainly jumped onto the scene, and obviously upsetting Minnesota State on that late field goal, has really raised their profile amongst the voters in really both polls. And so that's certainly those two teams are at the top of the Northern Sun Conference and looking really good.
Of course, the fans looking at the D2Football.com top 25 scoreboard, they see the Ferris State score 76-0, very impressive. Obviously for the Bulldogs on the national scoreboard, but we had some other games that went on. Back to the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, where 12th ranked Colorado State Pueblo handles Colorado Mesa in a close one, 31-24, the final score in that ball game.
Yeah, Mesa really putting up a fight right there against CSU Pueblo, which certainly came into this season with very, very high expectations.
Of course, another team that has always high expectations is Pittsburgh State. Tough schedule. We mentioned it, maybe one of the toughest schedules in the country here to start the year. Lost at Ferris State, lost the second week, but they came back to beat Grand Valley last week, and they get another win over a top 20 team in Fort Hays State as the Gorillas, number 10 in the country, defeated number 20 Fort Hays 31-16 at home in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Yeah, you normally don't think of a team starting 0-2, but somehow remaining in the top 25, and I think part of it is the respect for the schedule that they played. And Ferris State, of course, got a solid win over them, or actually a strong win over Pittsburgh State. And then Central Oklahoma, it was a tough game. And Pittsburgh State came up a little bit short in that game. But since then, a really good win over Grand Valley. And then they come back and they handle Fort Hays. And so they've got a chance right now to get on a big run here for the rest of the season.
Of course, along with Ferris State, and we mentioned the Northern Sun, the Great Lakes Valley Conference, a member now of Super Region 3, as is the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. In the GLVC, it was Indianapolis, which has kind of been the cream of the crop in the GLVC here in years past, number 22 in the nation, defeating McKendree 47-19. Greyhounds appear poised, at least right now, to be potentially one of those playoff teams coming out of the GLVC.
Yeah, I don't see anything on the GLVC schedule that is going to knock Indianapolis off. I could be wrong, but they seem to still be the class of the GLVC and poised to gain perhaps another championship from that conference and a trip to the NCAA tournament.
We mentioned Slippery Rock out in the PSAC. The number 9 team, the Rock, defeats Shippensburg 42-0 as they are starting to round into form. I think they made a quarterback change, and obviously a quarterback was a big strength for them a year ago with one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and they certainly showed just how good of a program that is in the national semifinals against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they had some big losses from their offense, in particular when you look at their roster from last year to this year, but they seem to have found a comfort spot with the quarterback position, and they had a lot of other pieces that came back. And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think it appears that they are rounding into shape, and so that could be tough news in that conference.
Of course, Angelo State in the Lone Star Conference, number 6 in the country, defeats Western New Mexico 56-27. It was number 4 West Florida over North Greenville. That was kind of a closer ball game than many expected. 25-17, the final score.
Yeah, give North Greenville credit for being able to hang tough in there. West Florida, a team that came in looking red hot early in the season, and I mean they're still obviously in a really good position here. So let's not get that wrong. But yeah, that was a tight game, I think, and we'll see what that might mean in the weeks to come.
Of course, a lot of people looking at the national polls see Ferris State number 1, Harding number 2, and Harding again shows why it's a top 5 team in the country, defeating Southern Arkansas 31-12 in the Great American Conference.
Yeah, I mean, they've been so impressive that they win 31-12, and some people are thinking only 31-12, but that's how good Harding has been. Basically, Ferris State has been pretty much a consensus number 1, and Harding has been consensus number 2 right there nipping at Ferris's heels.
Battle between 2 ranked teams. It was number 25 Virginia Union over number 21 Johnson C. Smith, 28-10 the final score in that ball game. Number 5 Western Colorado rolls past Adams State 45-6 on the road. It was 8th ranked Central Oklahoma winning a tight one over Washburn in the MIAA 34-28 the final score in that ball game.
Well, that was a big win for Central Oklahoma. They can ill afford to have stubbed their toe right there against Washburn. So that's a huge, huge win for them.
Texas Birmingham Basin, number 7 in the national rankings, defeats Texas A&M Kingsville by a score of 43-30. And then number 19, Central Washington, all over West Texas A&M at home by a score of 52-6. That was against a West Texas squad that had shown some offensive firepower, at least here early in the year.
Yeah, just the margin of victory there is just, almost mind-blowing for Central Washington, but really a really solid program, a program that we'll be seeing over the next couple of years.
Of course, Ferris State will pay the trip to Central Washington coming up next season, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. And we're joined now by Ferris State University Coordinator of Revenue Generation and Advancement, Cedric Frierson. Cedric, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, guys.
For you, what's it been like? I know you're heavily involved here, but 3 home games and 3 big crowds here over the course of the season so far.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I mean, fans have been coming out, supporting. It's been really exciting to see that. And, we're hoping to get some more people here. We got Wayne State coming up next, so hopefully we can get a good crowd with that. So, and then it's a couple big games coming up left. So it's exciting moving forward. So that was bad.
I know, obviously, over the course of your time here at Ferris State, you've been around football, but for you, you're a college football player at Ashland University. What's it like just being, on the sidelines, kind of in a different role than maybe you were as a college player?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a new perspective. When I first got here, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I love being around college athletics. It keeps you young. It's ever changing always, and so being around it and being able to still be a part of the action is really exciting. And so I really enjoy it, and I enjoy my time here for sure.
I know you're heavily involved with the Gridiron Club, and maybe talk about that support and just how much that means for the football program, the university, the things that they do day in and day out.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are truly dedicated fans. I mean, I sometimes have to kick them out of the parking lot because they want to show up so early. So, but no, those guys are truly dedicated, and they really do everything to help support Ferris State football. And, just to kind of see that dedication is really inspiring, and it really helps, show up every weekend, even when it's freezing cold outside. So those guys are always there.
And so, coming out of college and playing for Ashland and having a lot of success there in Ashland, was a career in athletics. Is that kind of where your head was when you came out of college?
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of wanted to get into the space of athletics. I didn't really know where to step. So I was just trying to figure it out. I was doing some different rec sports, and then I got in at Tiffin University and was able to kind of work and be in athletic department a little bit. And then this opportunity presented itself, and so I jumped at it, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at the time. I remember having a conversation with Steve, and he was just like, it's a brand new position. There's a kind of a groundwork, but you can just kind of run with it. And so just did that.
And then, the way that the position has evolved, and you really have your hands on a lot of different things. And what's that been like to be able to, from a learning standpoint as a young professional for yourself, looking forward to maybe where your career could go about what you've been able to learn?
Yeah, I think, being here, there's something I think special about Ferris. You get to do a lot of different things, especially starting out early in your career. You get to dabble and figure out what you like, what you don't like, what your interests are. And having Steve, he gives us a lot of creative freedom to kind of explore and do different things just to kind of spice it up and, bring some new exciting different things. And so I think, for young professionals trying to get in, I think Ferris is a great place to start, truthfully, because you get to see a lot. Like, our programs are very successful. We have successful coaches that really do the stuff the right way and put our student athletes in a great position to win. And so being able to see that, I think, has really been beneficial. So you get to do a lot of hands-on things, but then you also see the reward of that, which, helps your job and helps you keep pushing forward and not burn out.
And then what's it like? Because I know for a lot of fans, they see the action on the field, but you and a lot of other people know all the stuff that happens behind the scenes to make that possible. What's it like working with a team of professionals that are working really hard to make sure we can put on a great show for our student athletes and our fans? Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that people don't see. I mean, Rob's getting to the stadium sometimes at 7:00 for a a 1 o'clock kick, and it's like you don't think you have to get there that early to start preparing, but it sneaks up on you very quickly. It sneaks up on you. The time just kind of, you start doing one thing and then you're like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. And then next thing you know, it's like people are showing up and it's, doors are opening, gates are opening, and we're kicking off. And it's like, oh, I just did all this stuff and now we're about to start a game. Okay. And so it's a learning process as I was obviously growing, but I've enjoyed it and it's been beneficial.
And what would you tell, former student athletes like yourself, put yourself back into that student athlete mindset. You're coming toward the end. You're getting ready to graduate. What would you tell people that are interested in a career in athletics? What's some advice you would give those kids?
I would say be willing to do just about whatever. I mean, for me, I always think, being a former student athlete, I was always the athlete of, that athlete part. I wanted to do anything and everything. And so being open to doing that when you get in the workforce, I think is also beneficial because it lets everybody know that you're willing to do whatever it is, like nothing's below you. And so I think being able to do that and spanning beyond your job description, I think, shows people you're willing to work and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done and make sure events or games are run successfully to the best of their ability.
And all around the athletic department, there are a lot of students, we have a lot of students like from sports communication program and other programs. Talk about the experience that they're getting in so many different areas, whether it's sports information or whether it's in facilities or marketing or finance or whatever. A lot of students are getting some great experience.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're definitely going to get a lot of experience because we need the help as much as possible. And so, if you come and help us, and we're definitely going to put you to work and get you that hand-on experience. I know Rob's got like 20 students and I'm working on getting some more. But we will definitely find work and we'll definitely get you that great experience. And then you also be along a great athletic programs, that you can then see the success that, having the jobs and projects that you're doing, be successful and then for successful programs as well.
And then before I get it back to Rob, I want to jump back on something that he was talking about. He mentioned the Gridiron Club and you worked with a lot of those groups, to help with revenue generation. And just, talk about those groups and you working with them and what they do. And what would you say to somebody who's thinking about joining one of those groups?
I mean, I think if you want to join the Gridiron Club, I think it's truly a great opportunity. I mean, you can truly, like those dollars that are raised through the Gridiron Club go directly into impact our football club, even with all of our other booster clubs. So football, basketball, hockey, those funds go directly to impact those student athletes and those coaches. And so that's something, if you're looking to say, how can I get involved? There's so many moving parts now with NIL and different things. And I want to, make sure I touch base and be a part of that program. I think that's truly the way to do it. And, those dollars truly impact and help those programs more than you would actually think. And so it's beneficial in every way and component. And so join the clubs now. I think that's the biggest thing is join.
I know, Cedric, you just mentioned NIL and a little different than maybe it was when you were a player with name, image, and likeness now. And obviously something that's only going to be more and more important for the student athletes, not just at the Division I level, but also here at Division II.
100%. I mean, NIL is ever changing always. And, here at the D2 level, we've seen how NIL can impact us. But, I think, as we keep moving forward, I think it's going to be only beneficial for us to start, looking at ways to figure out how we can, help these student athletes get these funds that, they're looking for as well. And so I think, it's, one of those things I wish I had when I was in school. I missed the cut, but it would have been beneficial for me for sure, helping with books, gas money, anything like that. So it truly would have been beneficial.
Of course, I know last year you were part of this national championship run for the Bulldogs, and we've had championships in other sports since you've been here. Just how rewarding is it to see what the student athletes are able to accomplish and just to be a part of that whole experience?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I didn't really realize it when I was in school. When I was at Ashland, I saw our women's basketball team win a couple of national championships, and that was cool, like to be a part because I knew some of those people, but I didn't really know what it took. And to be here at Ferris and now I'm seeing national championships back to back and doing different things, and volleyball is competing at a high level, and all these different programs are competing at the highest level. I think it's truly outstanding. I mean, I don't know. I'm speechless. Like, there are words that can't describe like how, like, yeah, it's a hard thing to put your words to, but I think it's really nice to see for those student athletes and for their coaches.
I know finally here, before we let you go, you played at Ashland, of course, a former GLIAC school, played against Ferris State. What's it like kind of being on the other side now? And I know it's been a few years, but being, I guess, in the Ferris colors now when you take on Ashland or some the other opponents that you used to play.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm 2-2 against Ferris, so I don't know if many people can say that. Ended a lot of runs for Ferris, but no, it's been great. I still have former teammates. I was just at one of my buddies' weddings couple months ago, and they were talking about some of the times of being at Ashland, and it's they still give me a little flack for being at Ferris, but I truly enjoy it, and it's been beneficial for me overall. Like, it's helped my career more than anything, and just to be able to sometimes see those schools in the GLIAC, I think is really good to see. I wish we could play a little bit more of them. Get some of those schools back in the GLIAC would be great.
Oh yeah.
Well, Cedric, we appreciate the time here today. Thanks for stopping by, and looking forward to the rest of the home games here coming up on the schedule.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to our final segment here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Big thanks as well to Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as Ferris State on a bye week, but the Bulldogs will be geared up to take on Roosevelt next week to start Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference play. Of course, we ran down the matchups in the GLIAC. We've ran down the scores from across the country this past week. Let's take a quick look at the national slate here coming up this week. Around the country in Division II football. Some of the matchups here this week. It'll be Bentley going on the road to American International, a place the Bulldogs played at just a year ago. Edinburgh will host unbeaten Clarion out in the PSAC. It'll be Central State taking on Lane. West Alabama will visit North Greenville. Big matchup in the Great Midwest Athletic Conference where Northwood will play host to Ashland. That should be an entertaining game. Northwood playing some great football. They'll be at home in Midland for that contest.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting game in the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. Ashland, obviously, a very, very solid team. And Northwood is a team that's been playing better football. You've seen their progression over the last few years. So that should be a really good matchup.
Also going on in the country, it'll be Indiana of Pennsylvania visiting Seton Hill. Shepherd out of West Virginia hosting Kutztown. Shepherd, a team that traditionally has been very good, but struggling a little bit this year. We'll see if the Rams can kind of get it back on track.
Yeah, it's a tall task there as they're hosting Kutztown. And Kutztown is a team that, when you have the record that they have, you play well at home and you play well on the road. And so Kutztown and Slippery Rock seem to be the teams leading the way in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. So it'll be interesting to see as Shepherd was a team that some of the runs that the Bulldogs had to the championship, Shepherd was a name that came up quite a bit, and they've had some challenges since then, but historically they've been really good.
Of course, the Bulldogs had a big win over Tyson Bagent and Shepherd in the national semifinals en route to, believe, that first national championship back in 2021.
So yeah, I mean, that was a huge win, and obviously Bagent since then has really opened some eyes with the way that he has played, and for the Bulldogs to really have the success that they had against him and that team, that was a great, great win en route to a national championship.
Also going on in the country this week, it'll be Allen visiting Albany State. Bowie State will play host to Winston-Salem State. Concordia St. Paul in the Northern Sun playing host to Jamestown. It'll be Emory and Henry hosting Anderson. Virginia State will go to Fayetteville State. Glenville State hosting Charleston. East Stroudsburg will be at Lock Haven. And a big matchup in the Northern Sun as well. Minnesota Duluth hosting Minnesota State Moorhead. They've got a lot of offensive firepower on that Minnesota State Moorhead side.
Yeah, that's the game that Duluth is going to have to be ready to play. Duluth, very, very solid team on both sides of the ball. But Moorhead is a team that's capable of putting up some points. And so Duluth's going to have to be ready for that one.
Also this week, it'll be Virginia Union going to Shaw. Bloomsburg will be at Shippensburg out on the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Still in the PSAC, Slippery Rock will play host to California, Pennsylvania. Battle between two ranked teams in the PSAC.
Yeah, if you think about recent years in that conference, Slippery Rock and Cal PA have been really strong teams. So it'll be interesting to see how Slippery Rock handles that challenge with Cal PA coming in.
Of course, Augustana will have a challenge as well as they play host to Winona State. Central Missouri hosting Missouri Southern coming up this week. It'll be Pittsburgh State, maybe an easier slate here, but never easy to win in the MIAA. They'll have to go on the road to face Emporia State.
Well, you certainly like Pittsburgh State's challenges, but given the first 4 games of their schedule, no disrespect to Emporia State, but I think Pittsburgh State's got to be feeling a little bit of relief here as they've run an incredible gauntlet. But Emporia State has been a solid team over the years, so the Gorillas are going to have to be ready to play.
Of course, on the basketball side, this next matchup would be a big one year in and year out here in the Midwest region. Not so sure on the football side, but we'll wait and see. It'll be Hillsdale playing host to Kentucky Wesleyan.
Yeah, that's a marquee matchup in men's basketball for sure. Two programs that have had a lot of success, particularly Wesleyan on the national level in basketball. But football is a little bit of a different situation, but could be an interesting matchup there.
Bemidji State will visit Minot State. It'll be Upper Iowa after the big win over Michigan Tech, playing host to Lincoln of Missouri. Washburn will host the Nebraska Kearney Lopers coming up this weekend. It'll be Wayne State of Nebraska playing host to Southwest Minnesota State. That also a Northern Sun matchup. Big game in the MIAA. Northwest Missouri playing host to Central Oklahoma.
I tell you what, historically, you think about where Northwest Missouri has been over the years, and you got Central Oklahoma coming in. You certainly favor Central Oklahoma, but you can never really doubt a Northwest Missouri team. So that should be a really good matchup.
Even added some more intrigue to that one with Adam Dorrell, I believe, the head coach at Central Oklahoma, going back to Northwest Missouri State, where he won a couple national championships.
So that just thickens the plot considerably right there, especially when you think of the success that he's been able to bring to Central Oklahoma.
Indianapolis, big matchup, maybe one of their toughest tests going on the road to Truman State in the Great Lakes Valley Conference coming up this week. Colorado Mines will try to get back on track. They got a tough matchup again as they visit Black Hill State, which of course gave Grand Valley State a pretty good ball game a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Black Hill State looked really solid against Grand Valley, and that had a game that was going back and forth with the Lakers, and so that's going to be a game where, Mines is going to have to be ready to go here as that conference seems to be getting deeper with really good teams.
Colorado Mesa will visit Chadron State, also in the RMAC. It'll be Northern State going to Mary. Minnesota State will play host to Sioux Falls. Big game again in the Northern Sun. It'll be Fort Valley at Tuskegee. Western Colorado will play host to New Mexico Highlands. This week it'll be Colorado State Pueblo hosting Adams State. Tiffin will take on Lake Erie, a battle between two teams the Bulldogs have already played this year.
Yeah, I think certainly Tiffin going to be favored in there, but Tiffin's coming off a loss after playing Ferris State really, really tough, and Tiffin coming off a loss, they really need a strong bounce back win. They need a convincing performance against Lake Erie.
McKendree will play host to William Jewell. It'll be Fort Lewis at South Dakota Mines. Valdosta State will take on North Carolina Pembroke at home. It'll be Ohio Dominican after a big win over Tiffin. They will visit Walsh. Walsh, a team that's playing well here early in the year out of the Great Midwest Athletic Conference.
Yeah, huge win for Ohio Dominican last week as they were able to knock off Tiffin and basically make that GMAC race feels like it's kind of wide open right now with 3, maybe 4 teams feeling like they got a shot.
Also this week, Lenore Ryan will try to get back on track as they host Newberry. It'll be Wingate playing host to Carson Newman. Delta State will host Erskine. It'll be Findlay playing host to Thomas More out in the GMAC. Henderson State hosting Southern Arkansas. Big game in the Great American Conference. Missouri S&T will be at Southwest Baptist. We got Texas Permian Basin playing host to Midwestern State. It'll be Missouri Western going to Fort Hays State. Harding will play host to Ouachita Baptist, and a big game down there in the GAC, and we'll see if Ouachita Baptist can step up to the challenge and beat Harding again. They've done it 2 times in the last 3 years.
Tall task, but certainly Ouachita has been one of the few teams in that conference that's been able to even bother Harding, let alone get a win. So we'll see what happens there. But that's obviously a huge rivalry game there. But Ouachita hasn't quite been playing as well as they've been playing in recent years. But you never know in a rivalry game.
It'll be West Texas A&M playing host to Western Oregon, and Central Washington will visit Western New Mexico. Listing of some of the top games going on around Division II football this week, and of course didn't mention a whole lot of GLIAC games. Just one GLIAC game with the cancellation of the Davenport Lincoln California contest this week. Just one game involving a GLIAC team, and really kind of speaks to the challenges that these GLIAC teams do have in trying to find opponents here to fill the schedule.
Exactly. There's a lot of questions about, why you played this team or why you played that team. And when you're trying to fill out a schedule, you're trying to fill out a schedule. So you're trying to get opponents. And so some of the GLIAC teams are facing some challenges. And it's what you see in some of the GLIAC teams that are making some really long road trips or playing some non-NCAA teams. And a lot of it is just to fill that schedule, and some teams have had to have 2 straight bye weeks. And of course, Ferris State tried to avoid that and to make sure that they had a homecoming game. And so there are tremendous challenges for the GLIAC football coaches as well as the GLIAC athletic directors and athletic administrations.
Of course, as we get ready to wrap up today's show here, presented by Two Hats Ranch and Fox Motors at Cadillac and Reed City, we got to mention some other things going on. Bulldog volleyball will be at home this weekend, hosting Grand Valley State on Friday night, a 6 o'clock match. You can catch that on Flow College and Flow Sports, but obviously a big match here early in the conference season for the Bulldogs against the Lakers here on the volleyball side.
Yeah, it's amazing to have a matchup come this early in the schedule, between two teams that, for all the success that the Bulldogs had last year, some of their toughest matches were against Grand Valley. And of course, Grand Valley, the losses that they had, I think most of their losses were to Ferris, which was undefeated in the regular season and undefeated up until the quarterfinals of the Elite Eight. So this is an elite matchup for the Bulldogs and the Lakers to play in this game. And Brody Kaiser and I will be having the call of this game, and we're excited to bring this game to the fans on Flow Sports.
Of course, Ferris State volleyball will also be at home on Saturday, a 3 o'clock match against Wayne State. Wayne State unbeaten in the GLIAC as well at 2-0, along with the Bulldogs. Mentioned next week, Ferris State football will open conference play at Roosevelt. Well, the Bulldogs soccer team will head to Roosevelt coming up on Sunday, their only action of the week, and they've got a chance to start conference play with a 3-0 record.
Yeah, hopefully there's some momentum that they can take from this past weekend, getting the wins over Davenport, getting a win over Purdue Northwest, and I think feeling really confident in how they were able to get those wins, really locking down defensively, and getting opportunistic opportunities where they were able to score goals. And so hopefully that can continue. But, obviously Bulldogs would love to get an offensive explosion, get maybe 3-4 goals and put them on the board here. But ultimately what it comes down to is having more goals than the opponent. It's a simple concept, but it is effective. And it's helped the Bulldogs to be two wins in a row coming out of this past weekend.
Got to give a shout out as well to the Ferris State women's golf team, as the Bulldogs will be hosting the Bulldog Invite this Saturday and Sunday at Cat Key Golf Course. Expecting some good weather conditions, and always nice to play that course for the Bulldogs. Their one home competition here of the season, and Cat Key Golf Course in excellent shape. Great work by the grounds crew out there.
Yeah, just great work, well-maintained facility, a very well-respected facility, Cat Key. And, for our women's golf team, just like our men's golf team had the preview tournament event. It's special when you get a chance to play at home and you get a chance to play at Cat Key. You know Cat Key really well. And so it's going to be special and going to be a really exciting opportunity for the women's golf team.
Let's take a look at the Bulldog Players of the Week following the 76-0 win this past Saturday over Rio Grande. For Ferris State, Tarek Bauer named the Offensive Player of the Week for the Bulldogs. Giassi Madison earns the Defensive Player of the Week honor. Jeremiah Housey, thanks to the blocked field goal that was returned for a score, he wins the Special Teams Player of the Week award for the Bulldogs. Jarek Fields named the winner of the In the Fold Program Award here for Ferris State this past week. And then a couple freshmen earning Scout Team Players of the Week. The Offensive Scout Team Player of the Week, Sante Gasparoni, a quarterback here for the Bulldogs, and Quantes Joseph earns the Defensive Scout Team Player of the Week. So some good recognition for those individual awards.
Yeah, I mean, it really means a lot to these players, especially when you hear some of the names of some of the younger guys in the program that, our fans might not know quite as much about, but these are going to be the future stars of the programs. So keep paying attention to this as we bring that to you, because you're going to be seeing just the very beginnings of what are going to be the key players for the Bulldogs in the years to come.
One familiar name for Bulldog fans that they know who he is, often one of the smallest guys on the field, but named the GLIAC Defensive Player of the Week. It was Justin Payout, third consecutive week. The Bulldogs have had the Conference Defensive Player of the Week award winner.
Yeah, just congratulations to Justin Payout. Of course, had the huge defensive play that earned him a touchdown, and that was good enough, along with whatever else he was able to do in terms of his leadership back there in the defensive secondary. He's played some corner at times, and he's played a safety position, and he is just a guy that just does whatever it takes for his team to be successful.
Of course, the Bulldogs hoping to be successful next week. We'll talk more about Roosevelt coming up on next week's show as the Bulldogs gear up to open the conference schedule against the Lakers on Saturday, October 4th, out in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Ferris State 4-0 on the season, ranked number 1 in the country, as the Bulldogs are currently midst a bye week and coming off a big 76-0 homecoming victory. The 76 points, maybe a touchdown or so shy of the school record set a year ago, 84-7 over American International. But the Bulldogs got a lot of guys, a lot of quality playing time. Of course, the game shortened, a couple 10-minute quarters in that second half on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think the Bulldogs are all that disappointed about that. I think they're probably way more happy that they were able to get some young guys a lot of reps out there, a lot of snaps, and I think that's going to help develop our depth and really help those players get confidence in what they're able to do. You see a true freshman get a defensive touchdown, which was huge, and those are the kind of opportunities that can come from a game like this. And part of the reason that those guys were able to get in there and get as much playing time as they did is because that first string unit, they really took care of business right off the bat, and they got it done in special teams. We saw the touchdown return on the opening kickoff from Tariq that really got it started. Defense did what it had to do. Offense did what it had to do. And even when the Bulldogs substituted, those guys came in and did what they had to do.
Got to give a big thanks to Brody Kaiser for his production work here on today's show, along with our advertising partners. We mentioned Two Hats Ranch, of course, along with Fox Motors of Cadillac and Reed City. Huge thanks to Steve Masters at the Sunny 97.3 studios, the president of Ferris State University, Dr. Bill Pink, and athletic director Steve Brocklebank, along with our entire communications and game day operations team. Sandy, enjoy the bye week. I know Bulldog volleyball going on, but looking forward already to the trip coming up a week from Saturday to Arlington Heights.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to, believe it or not, it's going to be fun to get back on the road and to get back with Bulldog football. We get a little bit of a week away from it, which is fine too, but I know those guys are going to be using that week productively. We're going to try to use it as well. We're going to have some fun with volleyball this weekend and, of course, golf. But we look forward to getting back to football next week.
That'll do it for the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Join us again next week as we continue coverage of Ferris State football right here on the Bulldog Sports Network.